everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a different kind of video, one that I feel like is needed after a month of nano, and that is talking about burnout. Now normally I script my videos, but today I decided to just talk to the camera about what I'm feeling and about what I'm sure a lot of other writers and authors are feeling too. Burnout is basically when you reach the end of your creative tether. I mean, it happens to a lot of people. I can think of like full-time mums and stuff like that. They get burnout too, and a lot of creative people get burnout. But for me, it's about being up at 2:15 in the morning and making a video because you can't sleep, because you're in pain, because you are burnt out. I wrote a lot for NaNoWriMo. I wrote 32 chapters, over 80,000 words, and I was really pleased with that. And beyond a few days being tired, I didn't really struggle with it. It was only towards the last few days of the month, the last day of the month, last day of my writing day of the month, because I didn't write every day throughout the month, and I am still recording this in November, so I obviously haven't written every day of the month. But burnout to me is basically reaching the end of that tether, being so tired and just not really wanting to look at the document again. Not because you hate the story, but because your brain is just so tired. I think that's the right word. I'm extremely tired, and I've not been able to sleep well for the past year or so, but it's gotten worse this last few months. Burnout for me is part of the job. You do get to a point when you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I've had a long year. I've had a year of edits. I released 3 books this year. I'm editing a 4th book, but it's not being released this year, thank goodness. But that's just where my editing schedule falls. So I'm getting to the point where my creative juices need to be refilled. My creative well needs to be refilled. And I don't really know what to do with that. I know that Buggy did a series after their NaNoWriMo vlogs of self-care, and I've been watching those, and they've been really useful to me because I think we have quite a lot in common. I don't really know how to do self-care. You'd think as someone who's disabled that I would be all about the self-care, and I am, but there's just not much I know how to do other than curling up in bed and reading a book, which I have been doing a ton lately. But reaching the end of that creative well as such is never a good thing, and there are ways to avoid it. There are ways to stop yourself being stretched too thin, and I think I'm pretty good at keeping within those limits most of the time. But this nano, I started off planning to be a bit of a rebel and not even go to 50k, but like I said in my Life with Joe video, I was at 27k by the end of the first week, so I thought, you know what, let's go for this. Now if I'd stuck to my normal 20 chapters, I probably still would have hit 50k, but I know I would have hit 50k. But there was a part of me that was like, yeah, but what if? And I just kept adding and piling on the work and piling on the work and piling on the work. And yeah, it just all added up, and eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to finish this, I need to end Nano and just take what I've done and be proud of it, yes, but also know that I'm not going to do that again. I know that in that Life of Joe video I said that Nano isn't sustainable, and I know that some of you will be thinking, but Joey, you write between 30 and 40, 50, 60k a month anyway, so what's the big deal? And the big deal is that I dropped down to 20 chapters for 2 reasons. One, I started hydrotherapy, which gave me 1 less day a week to write, and 2, I was already struggling to keep up with the output. It's not that I can't do it, it's that basically I needed more days off because I was struggling with my sleep. As I've said, it's something I've talked about a lot. I'm not sleeping very well. I'm either sleeping for 14 hours and then being tired 10 hours later, or I'm not sleeping much and not really being able to function. And as I said, it is now 2:19 in the morning and I've had about 6 hours sleep, but I'm awake. One of the things with burnout that I think a lot of people forget is that basically when it happens, there's not really much you can do about it other than step away and rest and do whatever you need to do to get yourself back to a point where you can write again or where you can create again. I know that Courtney from the Courtney Project, she takes time off and leaves, literally leaves where she lives, and she goes on a holiday and the burnout just washes away. And that's a great way to do it. I can't do that. So for me, it's a case of taking time away, taking time off. And the problem at the moment is that because I'm in the middle of edits, I'm still needing some part of my brain to be creative, because these are the developmental edits, so there are a lot of rewrites. And that means that I need that part of the brain to be creative so that I can keep doing the work I'm doing. Otherwise my editor's going to look at me and go, why does it suck? And I'm going like, well, no, because I'm burnt out and I don't know what else to do with it. But because there are deadlines in place, I don't have any choice. And I guess that's what I'm talking about, is the fact that there are some times you have burnout and you do have a choice. And yes, looking back, thinking about it, doing 32 chapters in 27 days was not my brightest moment. It was not my brightest idea. And even though I've dropped back down to 20 in December, I may still drop that still down to 16 or something. But I don't know, because December has not arrived yet. And it may be that these last few days I've had off are enough to build up that well again. Burnout is just, it's a real thing, and it happens to us all, and it's just, I don't feel like it's talked about enough. Now, saying that, I have seen quite a few videos on Authortube about burnout recently. Like I said, Tibaki did one, and Courtney did one, and it's just, I still don't feel like it's talked about enough. I feel like a lot of people, especially after Nano, are pushing themselves to reach either a point that they wouldn't normally reach, or that they're not capable of reaching because they just don't have the time, or anything else like that. And there's nothing wrong with putting pressure on yourself to achieve beyond what you would normally achieve. But I've noticed watching vlogs of people this year around, is a lot of people are feeling like they're failing because they're not reaching that word count a day and they're not hitting that 50k. And I guess it's just like, you're not failing. You've still written more than you would have written anyway, so that's a win. And I guess the whole idea of failing, of not doing well enough, causes you to push yourself even more, which then leads to getting closer and closer to burnout. And then you basically end up at the end of the month thinking, I don't ever want to write another word again. And while that's not true, you will write another word again if you want to, it's also a very realistic feeling, because Nano takes a lot out of you. Now, while I've got to the point where my output is quite big, my productivity is quite big, as I've said in numerous videos, that's taken a lot of time to get to that point and to hone that organizational skills and such. And even though Nano is basically my month, every month I do like about 50,000 words, it's not as stressful as Nano itself, because I always feel like I have to exceed what I would normally do. Otherwise, is it really a challenge? Not really, if you're just doing what you'd normally do. So yeah, that was my reasoning for doing the 80k. I didn't plan to do 80k, I planned to do 50, and then I was going to do 75, and then I got to 75, I thought, okay, I'll try and do 80, and I did 80. I know people like Emily Bourne planned to do 100k, and I don't think she managed it. I think she gave up because she realised that Nano wasn't working for her, which is awesome, because, you know, going through it and realising that that process doesn't work for you, that's a good thing, because you're not wasting your time doing something that you know doesn't work for you. And I have seen quite a few videos this year around that have sort of been like, I don't think Nano works for me, and I think that's a good kind of like experiment to do, is do it and think, okay, I've done the 50k, but I don't really think it works in my writing process, and that's okay too, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come to at the end of the month and you get to December and you get to the point where you're just like, I've had enough, I've had enough, I don't want to I don't want to anymore. And I guess for me it's just, it's hard to put it into words, because I've spent the last God knows how long rambling on. But what I'm trying to say is that burnout is normal, but you don't have to get to that point. Like, I'm not saying no one should do Nano and no one should challenge themselves and no one should push the boundaries of their abilities and stuff like that. I'm not saying that, because I think that's a good way to find out where the line is drawn as such. But Nano for me has always been kind of like something in the background, And it's only really been the years that I've gone at it seriously that I found myself towards the end of the month being like, ugh. And like I said in that Life of Joe video, one year I did do 28 chapters in 28 days, and I did write a chapter a day. I wrote every single day. I got really, really sick because I was so close to burnt out that I was just, my body was just like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. And I guess, yeah, burnout's real, and burnout's very hard to deal with, and it's about finding what works once you get to that point, but it's also about not getting to that point. Like, I won't do Nano the way I did it this time round, and although I think that I'll go back up 24 chapters in January, there's also this part of me that says, hang on, you're not sleeping all that well, and you're already tired, and you're already dealing with edits, and you're already doing XYZ. Let's stick to the lower chapter count and make sure that we actually don't get to the point of January, February time of going, I can't do it anymore, because that's the worst time to do it because of deadlines and stuff. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say, and I know it was very long and rambly, and it was just, yeah, but I wanted to come on. I did have a plan for this video that was something else, another topic entirely, but after Nano and after 80k, I just wanted to come on and say, yeah, burnout's real, which I already knew. I didn't need to burn myself out to find that out. I knew that it was real, but also that it can happen and that there are ways around it. And while I would normally do lists and pointers of how to do it, I don't really know what the answer is, because I'm not really very good at self-care. I'm going to be taking it slow. Tomorrow is a complete day off, and it's like my third of the month, and I plan to just sit and watch YouTube videos and read and just chat with a friend, and hopefully that will be enough to help me recharge and refill that creative well and get to the point where I feel like, okay, I can do this. And I mean, that's the hard part of being a full-time writer, is that when you get burnt out, sometimes you can't stop. Sometimes you can't just not write for a few days or a few weeks. Sometimes you have to sort of like work through it, and that's not a good thing. It sounds like a good thing, but it's not a good thing. It's terrifying, because you get to that point where you're just absolutely exhausted and there's nothing you can do, but you have to keep going, and that just leads to worse burnout. I've been there and it's not fun. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on burnout. Let me know what you do to avoid it or to help yourself once you reach that point. And how do you recharge? How do you take care of yourself? What kind of self-care do you do? And how does it work for you? Let me know all of that down in the comments below. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment or subscribe. I post you videos on Thursdays, and sometimes I post them on Sundays too. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to pick up Dying Thoughts 8th Ending and Lights Out, all the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing and be kind to yourself. Bye.